Welcome to Crimes Beyond Borders, where we'll bring you the most thrilling true crime stories every single day. If you're fascinated by mystery, intrigue, and the darker side of human nature, you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us as we unravel the most shocking and perplexing criminal cases from around the world. The story is about to begin after this intro.
From city streets to far-off lands, mystery slipping through our hands. Crimes beyond borders they speak, voices strong but words are meek. Every story leaves a mark, whispers softly in the dark.
Our stories at first are made for ourselves, to comfort us, to help us sleep, and to learn. Along the way, they become a part of our journey, teaching us English and fueling our passion for true crime. So, listen carefully, and if you're about to sleep, close your eyes. Let's begin. Let's go deeper into the Long Island serial killer case, a chilling saga that has left investigators, families, and the public grappling with unanswered questions for more than a decade. This case is marked by an unsettling combination of multiple victims, mysterious circumstances, and an elusive suspect who continues to evade capture. The beginning, Shannan Gilbert's disappearance. The story began in May 2010 when Shannan Gilbert, a 24-year-old woman, disappeared after a terrifying 911 call made from the Oak Beach area on Long Island, New York. Shannan was a sex worker who had arranged to meet a client that evening. According to reports, she was last seen running through the quiet neighborhood, knocking on doors, and frantically telling people that someone was trying to kill her. The 911 call Shannan made was chaotic and lasted over 20 minutes. Though she seemed disoriented, her cries for help were unmistakable. However, it took over an hour for the police to arrive, and by then, Shannan was gone. Her disappearance would spark a massive search effort, but no one could have anticipated the gruesome discoveries that would soon follow. The discovery of bodies on Gilgo Beach. In December 2010, during the search for Shannan, police stumbled upon the remains of 4 women along the desolate shoreline of Gilgo Beach, near Ocean Parkway. All 4 women were sex workers who had advertised their services on Craigslist, and each had been reported missing over the previous few years. They were identified as Melissa Barthelme, Megan Waterman, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, and Amber Lynn Costello. What tied these women together, besides their profession, was the manner in which their bodies were disposed of. Wrapped in burlap, they were buried along the same stretch of sand, indicating that the killer had meticulously chosen his dumping grounds. The discovery shocked the nation, but as grim as it was, this was only the beginning. Over the next few months, more remains were found in the same area, some of which were linked to victims dating back more than a decade. In total, the remains of 10 victims were uncovered, leading investigators to believe they were dealing with a serial killer who had operated undetected for years. Among the victims were several women, an unidentified Asian male, and disturbingly, a toddler believed to be the child of one of the women found nearby. This revelation left investigators and the public with more questions than answers. How could one person have committed such a string of killings without being detected? And why did some victims seem to have no clear connection to the others, victim or outlier? Though the bodies found on Gilgo Beach were linked to a potential serial killer, Shannan Gilbert's case remained separate in many ways. Her body wasn't found with the other women, and her cause of death was officially ruled as undetermined. Some investigators believed that Shannan had died as a result of an accidental drowning in the marshes near Oak Beach, possibly after becoming disoriented in the dark and scared for her life. However, Shannan's family, particularly her mother, Mari Gilbert, adamantly disagreed. They believed that Shannan had been murdered, possibly by the same person who killed the women found on Gilgo Beach. Mari Gilbert fought tirelessly to keep her daughter's case in the public eye, hiring private investigators and even pushing for an independent autopsy, which later suggested that Shannan's death could have been caused by strangulation. As the investigation into Shannon's death dragged on, it became intertwined with the larger mystery of the Gilgo Beach killings, even though police were hesitant to formally link the two cases. A killer at large. Despite extensive media coverage, multiple task forces, and years of investigation, the identity of the Long Island serial killer remains a mystery. Over the years, several suspects have been floated, but none have led to conclusive evidence. One of the more infamous suspects was Dr. Peter Hackett, a local resident who lived near the spot where Shannon Gilbert was last seen. Hackett had a history of bizarre behavior, and at one point, Shannon's family claimed he had called them in the days following her disappearance, offering his help. However, Hackett denied making such a call, and no solid evidence ever emerged linking him to the murders. Though Hackett remains a controversial figure in the case, he was never officially named as a suspect. Another potential suspect was James Bissett, a prominent local businessman who owned a nursery and had access to burlap sacks similar to those used to wrap the bodies of the victims. Shortly after the discovery of the remains on Gilgo Beach, Bissett died by suicide. His sudden death fueled speculation about his possible involvement, but no hard evidence ever tied him to the crimes. The list of suspects doesn't end there. And for years, various theories about the identity of the Long Island serial killer have circulated. Some believe that the killer could be a former law enforcement officer, given the calculated manner in which the bodies were disposed of and the apparent knowledge of police procedures. Others have speculated that the killer may have had ties to the sex trade or lived in the nearby communities. A frustrating lack of answers. In 2020, after years of silence, investigators released a crucial piece of evidence to the public, a photograph of a black leather belt embossed with the initials WH or HM found near one of the bodies. It was the first new piece of evidence shared with the public in years, and while it reignited interest in the case, it still did not lead to any breakthroughs. As of 2024, the case remains unsolved, and the Long Island serial killer remains at large. Despite advancements in forensic technology, including the use of DNA analysis and cell phone records, law enforcement has struggled to connect the dots that could lead to an arrest. The case continues to haunt the families of the victims, especially those who remain unidentified. Their lives were brutally ended, and their stories remain untold, eclipsed by the darkness of the crimes committed against them. The fight for justice, for the families of the victims, the lack of resolution is agonizing. Many of them continue to advocate for more resources to be allocated to the investigation. Mari Gilbert, Shannon's mother, became a tireless advocate for justice, never giving up on the belief that her daughter was murdered. Tragically, in 2016, Mari was murdered by her other daughter, Sarah, in a separate, unrelated incident, adding yet another heartbreaking layer to the Gilbert family's story. Mari's death has not stopped the fight for answers. In the years since, her remaining family and the families of the other victims have continued to push for justice, hoping that one day the Long Island serial killer will be caught. This is where we are today. A killer, or killers still at large, a series of victims whose stories demand justice, and a community that still grapples with the haunting reality that, somewhere, the person responsible for these horrific crimes may still be walking free. The story of the Long Island serial killer, Lisk, is far from over. In fact, it remains one of the most chilling and unresolved mysteries in modern American true crime. As of 2024, the identity of the person responsible for the murders found on Gilgo Beach remains unknown. Although there have been several suspects, many theories, and even the discovery of new evidence in recent years, the killer has not been brought to justice. Investigators continue to work on the case, analyzing evidence and tips that could lead to the perpetrator. The release of new evidence, like the black leather belt with the initials WH or HM, raised hopes that a breakthrough was on the horizon. However, as it stands, the Long Island serial killer remains at large, leaving the families of the victims without closure. This case has captivated the nation, not just because of its brutality, but because it reveals a dark reality. An elusive predator can operate undetected for years, leaving behind a trail of devastation. The victims, mostly young women who were marginalized and vulnerable, deserve justice, but whether that justice will ever come remains a question. While the investigation continues, and as cold case units work with modern forensic techniques like DNA analysis and data mining, the families and the community of Long Island wait, hoping that someday the full truth will come to light. This case is ongoing, and any new developments in the future could potentially shift everything we know. So no, this is not the end. It is merely a pause in a long, tragic, and unresolved mystery. The story has come to an end, but stay relaxed. If you feel yourself drifting off to sleep, just let the video play and enjoy the soothing music in the background. Let it guide you gently into rest. We'll be here, bringing you more stories every night. Sleep well, and see you tomorrow at 8 p.m.